AI is taking over social media. Will marketers still have a job? I'm Pip at Seymour Digital Media, and this is,
I'm Rena from Full Serve Web Marketing.
and today we're going to talk about a great debate. Is AI the death of social media marketers, or is it their new superpower? So Rena and I are going to debate today about because I'm all AI all the time, and Rena's, more apprehensive, I would say.
I have concerns. I'm not sure that I'm apprehensive more than I have concerns. So I have concerns about data privacy. I have concerns about the model collapsing. I've seen lots of it. I have concerns about the problem with taking bad data, not fact checking, not adding any value to it, and then putting it back out there so that it can be rescraped is turning into a bit of a problem, because there are
Yeah.
lots of people that are not checking. They're not checking their material. They're not making sure that everything is accurate, and AI tends to make things up more than I was actually aware of. I thought maybe they'd be making some mistakes in terms of figures or where they're collecting their figures from, but it's actually just making stuff up. And I don't know if everybody's heard about um, the article that came out was it last month in the, hang on a second, I've got it tagged here. Oh no, I don't. I think it was in the Washington Post. A really benign article proves sort of what can happen. And it's super important to know this. I think this is a great example because it really is something that we can all understand, wrap our heads around, and then see what the problem is. And that was somebody did a really cute little article on the 10 best reads for summer, and you know, put their trust in. That's an easy win for I don't know which AI they use, but let's say ChatGPT. It seems like an easy win. You make a question, you have it do the research for you, and then you turn that article in without they may have even done some grammatical changes or some rewrites in different places, but what they did not do is fact check the books. So, as it turned out, there were a ton of books that did not exist in the world, authors that do not exist. Some authors were with fake books, some were actually real. So, it was a bit of a nightmare. And so that's what happens. So then this article gets put out, and then it gets scraped and repurposed and reshared so that on the internet it starts to create its own life. And then it's hard to actually fact check after that when you've got three or four people, 10 people, 15 people, 20 people, whatever, putting that data and sharing that data again and again. So our data set, what ends up happening is our data set is messy because it's like a photocopy. If you take a photocopy, then you take a photocopy of that photocopy, then a photocopy of that photocopy, then your original data set is way over here. But now if you're using this one, it's all muddy. So the data is muddy,
Mm.
and that makes it useless or not very
Well,
helpful.
well, 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 hold on now. Like,
Yeah.
I think like there's a real point for efficiency and automation. So AI is in parts an algorithm, right? It's algorithms, it's automations, it's all of those things combined
Yes.
with. So I would say that although there are mistakes and maybe humans are trusting AI, maybe a little too much because, okay, yes, I have been found guilty of that. I learned this year that like I can make a really snazzy proposal, right? And I can get it, like I can get facts put in it. But are those facts correct? And do they link to the right resources? Because sometimes, and this happened
Yes.
um, recently, but when, Perplexity came out, I was using Perplexity and I noticed because I would fact check in there
Hmm.
because they'd give you the
Yeah.
articles and they had taken the weird pieces out of each one, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
which is strange,
Context
but for
matters.
context context does matter, but for social media, like, we've come a
Hmm.
long way. Like, I mean, people are able to do their own social media posts, right, using AI as like a first draft, right? So let's talk content first, like the written word we can
Hmm.
use, right?
Yeah, so obviously I was giving an extreme case of how the model collapse works. So that's when people talk about the model collapsing or AI imploding, or, and you read these things and you can't really grasp what that looks like or what that means. So that's what my example was trying to
It's a good
do.
example. It's
So,
a good
so
example.
yes. So okay, let's talk about content. So how do we create content? Like, are you creating content with AI at this moment for your social posts?
Yes, I'm getting it to help me. I've made a yes. So I've made two things. I've made a project in ChatGPT for different
Hmm.
things, and
Yeah.
I've made a ChatGPT for our brand, well, my brand voice when I post in the group, so that it helps me. Like we have a conversation, and then we come to a conclusion. I do change it and I do personalize it, so it is like the first draft, right? But it's more capable than ever to make images. I mean, some of them are flat, so so it is helping me, um, come up with ideas, talk it through, create some posting stuff. Now, I'm unsure about things like because I don't do much Facebook marketing, but like, are we using hashtags? Are we not using hashtags? Like, do hashtags matter? But that's another question for another day, right?
Okay, so I just want to sort of like try and get myself into that conversation that you're bringing up on content. So I have a few questions for you. So for example, um, um, when you're doing the posts using AI and you say you personalize it, can you elaborate on what that
Oh
means
yeah.
to you exactly?
Well, so one of the things that's transcending out of the AI space, or well, so there are different ways you can talk, right? You can talk in first person, second person, third person, right? Third person? Yeah. So first you talk in first person. So instead, like it'll write it, but then you put in the either brackets, ha ha ha, or comment, or you put in another sentence in between with more of your opinion. You personalize it. You make
Okay,
it.
so opinion. So when I think of personalizing, I always think of like making something organized for the viewer. But I see what you're saying. So what you're doing is you're inserting your brand into the content so that it's you're adding value to it. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, I would
Right.
say
And
I'd add value to it.
I think that's super
Use it.
important because then it's not a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. Then it becomes some more original information. And I think that's really what's important. We add value so that we can add originality. And this is also really important. This sort of bleeds out of my understanding of how to work with it for blogging too, because if you're just doing a copy of a copy of a copy, even if it is correct, Google doesn't really love it because there's nothing new, no interesting
It's not
information that
fresh. Fresh
that's right.
content
There's
is
nothing
still
you're
huge, right?
yeah,
So
you're not adding value, you're just reiterating what's already out there. So I think that's super important to do. I work at it the opposite of you. So you create yours and then add your personalization in. I give ChatGPT ChatGPT my ideas of my opinions, and then I ask it to create it into a particular way, maybe a little story, or maybe I'll just ask it to refine it and
okay.
work in that direction. And it doesn't really matter as long as you're getting those opinion pieces and those value pieces that are going to be from your brand out there. So I think that's right. That's a good case use in
So
my
yeah,
mind.
there's still, I mean, so will marketers lose their jobs? I think it becomes a superpower, right? Like if you're not using AI, I think you can do more, better, faster, which I used to have the triangle. I don't know if you remember where you can have
Yeah,
fast, cheap, and easy
good.
or good,
Good.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you can get good. Is it fast? I think that whole triangle has to go.
Can be faster. It can be faster. It certainly speeded me up and it's removed my dependency on other contractors in a particular way. However, I really
Mm.
actually do think that the great copywriters that are out there, they're not going to lose work because that piece of originality is going to need to be put in there anyways. And who does that better than a copywriter? Because they
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
storytelling, they understand the value of the content, they understand the context, and they can deliver all of that in a nice way for people to consume it in particular ways. I don't like the way that that ChatGPT tends to sometimes flatten information out, so it makes it more accessible,
Hmm.
but sometimes
What do you mean flatten?
flatten. So, for example, when I put a little bullet list of these are the most three important things, and somebody turns that into a sentence, sometimes what they do is to make that sentence read nicely, they'll actually de-emphasize the points or that I'm trying to make.
The
And
syllables? You know,
the
when you do
syllables?
the, yeah, yeah,
Syllables.
yeah,
Oh, that's
syllables.
funny. No, I've never heard that, but that kind of yeah, I guess that kind of works, but it's just the way that it's written. The focus is on making a pretty sentence rather than actually making a sentence that is really totally useful. Um,
Mm.
so,
So I think we both agree that I'm right. It's not a
well, I don't
contest,
really
people. It's
think,
not a contest.
yeah.
No, no, no. That was just point one about efficiency. So,
Hmm.
efficiency for repetitive tasks and scheduling. I don't know. I haven't been able to schedule anything with AI. I'm not using the automations, but I don't think you can schedule things in like a Facebook group. Are you using a scheduler for your clients?
No, a third-party scheduler, I don't, I actually, you know what? That's really interesting because I don't schedule for groups, period. That's not my style. I know you can schedule directly in the groups themselves, but I
I
don't use
can't.
third-party schedulers for Meta at all
They get
because third
downgraded, I
party,
think.
yeah, third party gets really poor algorithmic reach,
Mm.
and that's important to me. So I don't use them for Meta, although I do use them in other platforms. So I actually can't answer that, to be honest. I
Oh,
doubt it, though. I doubt that you can do that. They're taking a lot
you,
of the automations away from
yeah.
Facebook, including streaming with third-party apps, which is what
We're
we're
using
doing right
eCam
now.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we have to share it from a page to the group. That's
yeah.
usually how it works. So, um, yeah. Okay. We have given marketers some more time, I would say, or the ability to work faster and more, not in a silo, but with AI helper, right? This does not mean
Hmm.
get a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner who's AI. It's not helpful. I've heard some stories. Okay, so our next point is unparalleled personalization, and we did have a good talk about this the other day, right? What is unparalleled personalization? It's where it's and we disagreed on about what unparalleled or personalization means in marketing. Uh, for how I look at it, we all used to sit and watch TV together and things like that, and there was a certain time, and it was for a wide audience. And now our algorithms silo us into our lanes of what we like and gives us more content for what we like, right?
Well,
So
yeah, I would describe that slightly differently, but for all intents and purposes, that sounds about right.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so
it's
it
trying
makes
to hit.
hyper personalized content.
Yeah, so in fact, Meta describes that as moving into the area where it's sending you content before you've actually put any before you've actually expressed interest. So it's actually doing this sort of predictive content for you based on
Oh,
your
that's so
previous
funny.
choices. Yeah,
Because
so it's
Google does that too, and what they do it with
yeah,
their phones specifically, the
yeah.
Pixel,
All
where
right.
they have it, they have a feed, and they figure out the feed for you. And
Yeah,
originally, I thought it was like, oh, I don't want that. I want to choose my own.
yeah,
But you're getting fed information. It's what's happening, right?
yeah,
I used to say Meta was like a magazine. You flip, and then the ads are a bit intrusive because you're not looking for them. Where Google Ads was about going specifically to find something. It's intent marketing. right? And that was the difference. But I'm seeing it really changing now because I think Google and Facebook are just trying to keep you on page, right? On there as long
Yeah,
as
in their
possible.
app. Yes, in their
Yeah.
apps. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's right.
Okay, so we're also hearing, okay, so there's some weird things that have happened recently with Google and advertising in the merchant center, which is the shopping. So
Hmm.
their AI can recommend certain brands now, and specific products to individuals. So when this does work with social media in that our social media channels are being affected by the algorithms, and it is hyper personalized. Would you say that it's helpful that it's hyper personalized, or that it is a negative effect?
Oh, I think everything is better when it's hyper personalized. Yeah, I think everything is better. I mean, honestly, we went from over 40 and fat to every woman over 40 because that was the only demographic that you get as gender and age at one point on the internet. You don't remember those
Oh,
ads? Those
no.
were awful. Those were awful ads. I hated them so
Over
much.
40 and fat. They
They,
should have said menopause. Bastards.
well, I don't even remember if that
Excuse
word
the
was
language.
really used
Used, yeah.
at that time because this was about 15 years ago, right? So I started that's where I started on the internet, and that's why I liked Facebook because Facebook started collecting all the data points quite a bit earlier than Google did in terms of the way that they could market. And so it was really nice to be able to get things that were based on my interests. So I was then getting information on new restaurants and yoga retreats through the world and
Mm.
all the things that I was actually interested in purchasing rather than, all those awful things that I was noticing previously, which were not helpful and annoying. So there was a really nice, sweet moment in life where I really loved the ads that I was getting. I don't
Mm.
love them so much anymore because they have taken away a lot of that for personal reasons. And I understand why and agree
Have
with
you ever counted?
why they're taking, pardon me?
Have you ever
Yeah,
counted
yeah.
or organic
Uh,
posts to paid ad?
Yeah, yeah, I have, and the it depends on which algorithm we're on and at which point in time. But I
Mm.
don't love the way that Facebook is doing things now. They move towards away from ads and more towards showing you more friend stuff. But if you're not in the friends um, feed, then you do get a lot of ads and what they're calling now suggested content. And I don't like the suggested content at all, although I do like being included in the suggested content. So there you go.
Oh,
But
making humans
so,
happy.
and I do think that the AI is really a lot about, testing things and figuring out what works and having a conflicted viewpoint on it. Everyone should be conflicted about it, in my mind,
Yeah, I
just
agree.
because it could, if it does implode and does, fall apart, then we are going to
And we
be
have to
in
go
trouble
back.
as marketers. We're going to be in big trouble. So I'm like, I really feel like you're right. So basically the algorithm
I love
changes
that sentence.
regularly
Say it
on
again. Say it
Facebook.
again.
Oh, you're right. Yes, you're right. Like we have to. I mean, I don't know if you actually said this when I'm thinking about is you're right, but but I do think that the algorithm is always changing. That's one thing that we know. And there are sweet spots where we like it more than others in terms of how we use the platforms and also how we target for our clients. So those are two really big things. And there has to be this kind of nice middle spot where they're collecting the data but not too much data, or we get to use some of the data but not all of the data. And
Or we should get some of the ad revenue because they're using our data.
yeah, 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 yeah. And who owns the data and who owns copyright on the stuff that we're producing through AI? And we all know that that's still going through a course to figure out whether or not we do or we don't. And I think that those are problems for creatives in the world. I really do, and I think that's why a lot of copywriters are kind of against AI, and same with like photographers and illustrators and all of those people because they've worked really hard to hone their skill, get their stuff up there, and then to have a corporation come and scrape that off the internet and then feed it through our work in different variations. At one point, we would have had to pay for that usage. which,
Yeah.
I'm not a, I wouldn't be against if we were gonna,
What,
yeah.
there's a dog in the background. He sounds really cute.
Oh, you can hear it. I was really hoping you couldn't hear it because he's supposed to be downstairs, but he jumped over the little gate and is outside the door begging to come in, but I couldn't settle him down earlier, so the noise downstairs was worse because it involved toys being dropped on the floor,
Mm.
etc. So, and
Ah, I
barking, and I
see.
can't. So I'm sorry. I feel like a
That's so
bad
cute.
mummy right now, but
You might be, but you're not. No.
yeah.
Okay, so back to topic at hand. So
Yep.
we have talked about the creative elements.
Yeah.
We have talked
Yeah.
about hyper personalization, efficiency on automation, um, and then we need to talk about some other things that are important. Now, I'm all for AI, and I think it does help with social media content. I think my stance, and you can say yours, is that you do need the human touch in there. There was an example, I think, of a fast food place recently did automation and it got broken because the guy ordered like 18,000 waters. Do not quote me on that with the numbers because Phelan told me, so I haven't looked at the article myself, but I thought that was pretty good. But there are some things to be concerned with AI, and one of them
Yes.
is the power usage. Now I know that's
Yes.
the power usage isn't sustainable. What they want can't. I mean, it has to like the amount of power they want to put into this is six times what the Earth creates. So,
Well, and I noticed in ChatGPT when they launched 5 recently, a few weeks ago, we noticed from one day we actually had developed a system to swap out information in our brochures to update hundreds of brochures for a client. And we had worked that down to a 20-second process. And then as soon as they launched the 5, it broke because they that's exactly what they were doing, a cost saving measure in order to yeah, a cost saving measure. So we weren't getting the better version, which was the previous one. So 5 is not an improvement in in the
I have
in the platform. It is actually a
so it's
downgrade
yeah.
because they're losing money.
Interesting. I need to
Yeah.
research that more for sure. But I,
Yeah.
I did know I went in circles and with it for a couple hours one day and never getting the answer I needed, and I almost pulled out my hair. But then I realized that you have to do prompting differently in 5. So there's a couple prompt generators, like say I wrote something like, hey, write me an SEO article, right? Like if you don't say write me an SEO article with the most current up to date AI, so it gets put in, um, you get found in all the places, right? Uh,
Yeah.
when you put that in so simply, it won't do a good job. But when you use a like the Chat GPT prompt generator, put that in the
Yeah.
generator, get the right prompt, and then change it a little and put it back into Chat GPT, you'll get much better information. So, but so that's not where we were going. We were talking about the is AI going to replace us?
Resources. Ah, so
And
can we, I'm sorry, did you bring up the water though? I think we need to bring up the water
oh, the
because
water, no,
I'm actually less
yeah,
concerned about the power because I actually think that sustainable power generation, I'm a believer in sustainable power generation. I think that there are ways around that piece, but it's
I'm
the
sure there
water
are.
piece that I'm way more concerned about because they're building a lot of these data centers in places that don't really have water. It's really quite astounding. So, and they do use a lot of water. So I'm more interested in that and finding a solution around that. So there are a couple of different environmental issues when it comes to AI, and that includes anything that you do online. So if you spend your whole life, day and night online, you're actually not doing the environment any services, nor are you doing your brain any services. So make sure you're getting out and playing, people, in the real world.
Yeah, I will say though that, before people got regularly diagnosed being on a spectrum, or diagnosing themselves, people would use computers or games to settle the mind, so to speak.
to
right?
regulate them, but it's actually the opposite. So the
Not for some
dopamine hit
people.
is what they're the
Oh,
dopamine
yeah.
hit is it actually destroys your ability. I mean, maybe not gaming so much, but the internet in general can really muck around with your dopamine um, um, production, and it
Yeah.
makes it really hard to do long-lasting tasks and get reward after doing a long-lasting task. So I mean, I took a whole course on how to retrain myself for that, and that involved getting offline. So I'm going to go back to that and stick to it.
E-
As far as
Everybody's a
gaming
little
goes, with
different.
well, sure, but I think that the brain science is pretty straightforward um, on internet and brain health. It's not really particularly great.
Interesting. Yes. Love that
Yeah,
word.
gaming is a
Um,
different thing. I don't know about gaming, but
Well,
I
gaming's
understand what you're
interesting
saying.
because, like, I have family members that don't let their children on like, have a phone for playing
Mhm.
around until they're 16. And I thought that was very interesting. I wonder if you have kids, do you let them use social media? Um, you know, that is, I think, a great question. We are running out of time, Rena, and we haven't even got into the ethics. Um, and we didn't really talk about the water. So the water is that it takes a lot of water to run these systems, like a lot. And people don't want to live around the generators. The what were they called? Their
Servers.
um, servers. Yeah. Um, and so there's a point there, and there's also a point of uh, uh, the Mickey Mouse, who sues everybody who uses their logo or uses, Mickey. So what's that called, Rena?
Copyright, trademark, and I believe that sort of we did sort of address that. So the ethics really are about environmental ethics, they're about copyright ethics, and they're about well, there's two. I always want to make something into three. Um, um, authorship, that's part of copyright.
Yeah.
Original material authorship, and then what happens after you use it, like whose authorship is that. So, and those things will take time to go through the courts and be appealed and all of that. And you're right, Disney does take those people to court, and they're the ones that are usually the deciders of the copyright law. So
Yeah.
and that's the other thing about copyright law, is designed to benefit the person with the most money, because the only way to advance a copyright infringement is through the courts. And if you don't have the money to contest it, and that's how Canada ended up with Disney owning the Mountie for, I think it was a year or two. The Disney took over the Mountie, and the
No
Canadian
way.
government, yeah, they did. So they did for it's my favorite story, because they just took it. They didn't ask for it. They just took it and they said, "Well, if you want it, take us to court," basically. And of course, the government didn't do that. And then afterwards, I don't know if you realize this, but every time you bought a Mountie at a store, it was
Never
organized.
did.
It was the copyright was with Disney, and Disney, you couldn't find Mounties for a long time in certain spaces, and then Disney realized that they actually couldn't sell the Mountie from California or wherever Disneyland is. They gave it back to the Canadian government in the end. So we now hold the copyright over the Mountie again.
Okay, that's craziness. And there is,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so we are slowly out of time. We're just going to wrap this up with our conclusion. We know, I think I know, that none of us is going to stop using AI. The image creation, the video creation, the copy has all gotten better and better over time in each of the systems, right? From Gemini to ChatGPT to Claude. I don't know. Some people love Claude, some people hate it. Um, I think that there's a lot that we can enjoy out of the AI space, especially with social media marketing. However, I do believe you need humans, the human touch, the human experience, because the one thing that AI can't do is be human. Hey, Google, stop. So that's where I stand. We're going to use it and ignore all the bad things and still use it. What's your stance, Rena?
Well, my stand is not that. My stand is I will use it as a
Hey, Google, stop.
tool. I will use it as a tool to enhance my expertise, not to rely on it in any particular way. I do like the automation features. I'm just sort of digging into that. But I am concerned about copyright, and I prefer to go old school when it comes to my images. I'm not making images in that space because I'm an artist, and that I don't want my stuff uploaded and used by other people. So I pay for images before I change any of them and go through a designer, and I still use a copywriter, and but I do use AI for very particular and specific things. So
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to replace marketers, but I think that marketers need to really know about it, understand it, whether or not they're using it or not, is they need to know what can be done before they can actually make an informed decision.
Isn't that funny? That's also what we tell clients, right? You don't necessarily need to know how to do certain things, but you need to know like what to look for or what's important. I think we do need. I will agree. We do need humans intervening, and we will see where this goes. Right? I know that social media still looks exactly the same to me for the most part. Nobody likes a salesy social media post, that's for sure, unless there's good reason. But a good hook is never bad, right? So, which AI can help with copywriting. But yes, we use a graphic designer and a copywriter as well. But for my own social stuff, yeah, it's usually all my own mistakes. And I'm using AI. So let us know if you're going to use AI or if you are or what you're using it for. We'd love to know. And if you're joining us for the first time or you're not in the Facebook group we're in, we run a Facebook group called the Business Marketing Mixer where we hang out and talk about all this stuff and share thoughts and ideas, kind of the party in the back, you know. Come join us over there. Yeah. And we will see you
Great.
next time. What's next week?
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining when we talk about video and AI, and that's going to be Pip and Phelan.
Oh my God, it's so fun. Okay. Okay. Bye.
But for now.